So anyway, we just watched a quick video. It's on Canvas. It's called Everything is Just Fine. And it's a sales presentation. It's a sales advertisement, and what it's for is actually Coinbase. And if you think about, does everybody know what Coinbase is? Have you ever heard of Coinbase? Dalton, have you ever
No,
heard of it?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, so Coinbase. How about you, Dalton?
No.
Yeah, okay. So it's for cryptocurrency. Okay. So it's you can use it to trade the cryptos and stuff like that in what they call, I guess, supply chain. And it's a kind of a trading tool. And it's a trading tool that's not on the standard. Alex, have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of Coinbase.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here, if you look here at my screen, here it is, Coinbase. It's all based on basically an exchange that's outside of the normal national system. So that video that I just showed you, I'm not kidding. In those of us watching our recording here, go watch it because it's actually illegal. Like that is if you're caught with that on your computer, you can go to jail in England. I mean, does that sound crazy to you guys? That like having I mean, there's no pornography or violence or anything. I understand child pornography. If you have that on your computer, you go to jail. I get that. It makes perfect sense to me. But that video, it's like a Monty Python skit. It's hysterical. But does that spook you, Alex and Dalton and Allison? It's like you could go to jail for having that on your computer in England. Anyway, uh, I think it fits with exactly what we're doing here in the class. So let's take a look here where we are in the class. So we're just finishing up here. We've got last week we talked about the fountainhead. So the fountainhead discussion was all about ownership, and it was interesting to see some of our responses. Some of us don't think we own anything. Some of us wrote that, hey, as soon as I start working on something and I have a customer, the customer owns it, and I no longer own it. That's okay. Well, that's very interesting. I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer. I always am fascinated by where our minds are, where our zeitgeist is in terms of ownership, and whether or not we really think we own our own thoughts. I mean, I know sometimes I think working for Penn State that I think Penn State believes that it owns my every waking thought, which is a little terrifying to me because if I have a thought that isn't my job, do they own it? What if I come up with a really good idea for my flight school and does Penn State own that? I don't know. If I if I what we talked about before, and this is brings us forward to what we're talking about here. So now we're going to get into risk. Okay, we're going to finish up with this risk thing, and I mentioned this before. Here it is. Everything is just fine. That's the video I just played. This is our next assignment here. It's the Jill Kearns assignment. Jill Kearns was in her first year of college, was running low on money. She needed to make at least $500 to cover her expenses. She considered getting a full-time job, but realized that she did not have enough to do her studies, time to do her studies and keep the job at the same time. Her solution was she was going to start a small business. So this little assignment is almost like a microcosm of this entire course. And we start with, remember, the whole point of the course is we start with what we have at hand. Okay, so we only use what we have, and we don't risk what we can't afford to lose. Then we use that to manage, fix a problem. Okay, or remember, a problem has to be a pain has to be both a problem and a need, has to be both. And then after that, we discover who our customers are, and that they become part of our network. And when they're part of our network, they increase who we know, what we have access to, and our resources, which then could make the idea grow from there. And that cycle is called effectuation. But the main key is we don't risk what we can't afford to lose. So I know we've talked about this before. I'm 100% against credit cards because I mentioned before the uh, the only thing worse than having to pay a credit card fee, and we talked about this before, how compounding interest works. It's insane. In fact, Albert Einstein, arguably a very smart person, said famously, the most evil invention of mankind is compounding interest. Because let's say you start with $100, you borrow $100 on your credit card, and let's say it's 10% interest. The next day, it's $110. Okay. Then the next day, it's 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 that 10% on $110. And then the next day, you see how it increases every day so that there's no end to it. And right now, these rates are, I mean, they're insane. My wife just got an offer for a credit card, 29%, 29% compounding interest. That means you borrow 100, the next day you owe $129. What? That's insane. And here's the thing, the best gamblers in the world, I'm telling you, you could say that some of the best gamblers in the world own the casinos, right? Because the casinos never lose. If you go in, you bet in the casino, eventually the casino's going to win, okay? But better than them are the credit card companies. In fact, every major city you go into, look at the biggest building. It's owned by a bank. It's owned by a bank that has credit cards. Go into Los Angeles, it's SoFi. Go into New York, it's Chase Manhattan. I mean, you get my point, or Citibank. Anyway, I'm against 100% against credit cards. Try to have no credit cards. But here's the thing. So one of the things we can do though is we're going to start within our own means and try to cross out things that we don't really need in order to do the business, in order to get started. And that's the entrepreneurial mindset. That's the name of this course. So this is, like I said, a microcosm here of Jill. This is a great one. She considers getting the full-time job, right? And she couldn't do that with her studies. So her solution is, I'm going to start a small business. And she is into jazz. Like Alex, she probably plays the bass guitar. So her solution was to start a business here with the members of her jazz band, and they would hold jazz concerts and sell tickets to the Jill's performances. Okay, this sounds good. Now, Jill's idea for the venture came from her own and a friend's interest in jazz. As the popularity of jazz has grown, and interestingly, the popularity of jazz is actually growing, which I find hysterical, but very cool. Anyway, it has grown. She would have seen the potential for a business venture expanding. The idea of using her interest in music to earn the money is very appealing. Currently, the group members have 500 bucks in the bank. So they own 500 bucks. And let's say there's four of them in the band. In order to give a concert, Jill anticipated they would have the following startup expenses: an advertising cost of printing posters, rent of a concert hall, cost of printing tickets, incidental expenses of transportation and telephone calls. By deferring as many payments as possible and obtaining credit, she found that they needed $465 to hold the first concert. She figured their expenses would be Jill figured the total expenses would be $2,000 by giving two shows and multiplying the ticket price by the legal capacity. She calculated her gross receipts would be $2,900. So what are the risks involved here, and how can we reduce the risks? Okay, well, first of all, most of these things you don't need. Okay, you don't need a concert hall. Why do you need a concert hall? There are so many parks you could do this in for free that will cost nothing. There are halls that you could do. There are bars that you could play in that are free. There are open mic nights at bars everywhere where you just show up with your things and go, and you can bring people in. Does she need credit? No. Why would you get credit? No, 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 no. Do you need to print posters? Do you in this day and age? No, you can go on Facebook, right? You can go on LinkedIn, you can go on Snapchat, or just throw it on TikTok or Instagram. So anyway, I'm not going to do this whole assignment with you, but this is very important. This is a microcosm here of the class. We talked about this before. The thing called a point of purchase intercept, and also the sales presentation. Can I ask you guys a question? Alex, Dalton, Allison, could I ask you to take a quick look at your modules page and click on this one here that says company just for your venture, not personally, power interest grid on startup network? Could you let me know if this picture shows for you? Because I think it was Inna who had sent me an email before saying,
Yeah, it does. It's
it
there.
does. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you look at it before? Did it not work before? Or
I'm not sure. I actually just looked at it like
that's okay.
before I
That's okay.
joined.
That's okay.
Yeah.
If you can see it, then probably she can see it. So that's cool. If here's the thing, everyone watching this recording, and you're not here live, if you find a technical glitch with anything, I mean, you can see, look, here's the thing. I wrote this whole course, right? So I did all the tech stuff, and I am not a tech person. Okay. So you can see how many different things there are on this friggin' page. I think everything works. Sometimes Canvas changes and it doesn't work anymore. Please email me if you find something that doesn't work. I thank you a bazillion for letting me know for tech. I'm going to move forward here. Let me switch my sharing over to this business called the sales presentation. And let's talk a little bit about what we mean by marketing. Okay, so marketing is a funky thing. Marketing, can be used to describe just about anything these days. And unfortunately, a lot of times things are lost. But it really always comes down to what's called what is culturally authentic. That has to be the bottom line of everything that we do. Oh, by the way, I saw this one. I think I shared it last week, but I want to share it again. This is too funny to me. With regards to, I have one last thing to say about the fountainhead argument. Okay, so my students who say, well, as soon as you do something, your customer owns it to some degree. I saw this one on the Unilad. This made me laugh hysterically. This lady ordered a sidewalk at her house in her driveway. She ordered a driveway. She didn't pay for it. And you know what? The owners, much like Rourke from the Fountainhead story, said, "Oh, you're not going to pay for it? Then we're going to take it back." And they dug in and they took the driveway back. And I hope you think about that as you're answering this, because hey, if you didn't pay for it and I gave it to you, I don't think you own it. I don't think so. I personally, I don't believe that. Okay, so here we go. Marketing. Marketing is what we call a umbrella term. Okay, it means a lot of things. At one point it was what we might want to call a buzzword because it covered everything. But as an umbrella term, it covers these things. Okay, underneath it, it covers advertising, right? So what is advertising? Well, that was a great advertisement we just watched. But advertising would be like, you see this? I go in some kind of mass media, some kind of way of being seen by multiple people, more than one. But it could be just one. But I get on there and I say, okay, here's this thing. Okay, here's the thing. I would like to sell you this thing. It's a great thing. Oh, here's my thing. Here you go. Here you go. I'm going to sell you this thing. Okay. Can you see this thing here? There we are. I'm selling you this thing. Now you know what kind of a geek I am. If you recognize this thing, you're going to be laughing. I'm going to tell you, here's this thing. It's a good thing. It's a great thing. It's a blue thing. You can write with this thing. It has a flashing light on the one side. It's a great thing. That was an advertisement. You're taking a market and you're taking a message and you're transcribing that to the market. Public relations is different, okay? Public relations is, hey, have I told you about myself? I went to the Doctor Who Museum in England, and I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and I can verify the fact that this thing is a great thing and a great Doctor Who memorabilia thing, and it has a number on it, but I can tell you about myself and my background, and that's why I can sell you this wonderful thing. Okay, so public relations is not about the thing, it is about the background of the people selling the thing and how wonderful they are, and which is why you should trust them and why you should listen to what they have to say. Now, research, okay? Research. Research is a funky thing. It's research can often be voodoo, okay? In the sense that people tell you like they run surveys asking people what they think they're interested in or what they might be interested in or how interested in them. They might track number of eyeballs looking at something. They might track something like focus groups where they put a bunch of people in a room and make them play with the thing and see what they look at and what they do with it and how important they think it is and do they think it's actually made out of rubber or that kind of stuff. So those are really voodoo in my view because none of them really can show you a fact. Okay. The research that I believe in is called the point of purchase intercept, which is actually what we're doing in this class, where you actually track receipts. Okay. I know I had mentioned this before. I wanted to change the name of these classes to the Money Talks BS Walks class. If people buy something, if I can go into a store and say, "Can I see your receipts?" and you show me that you sold 100 of these things, okay, I know 100 of these things got sold. I don't necessarily find out why. But I can see that they did sell. That's a fact. Okay. The fact is. So that kind of research, fact-based, measurable research, that works. Okay. That's really handy dandy. But if it doesn't, it's voodoo. Now, what is sales? Okay. Sales is I will sell you this thing. You give me money for it, and I give you this thing, and now I don't have this thing. That is a sale. If you say, "Oh, that's a nice thing. I might be interested in buying that thing." That's not a sale. If I take a survey and say, "Oh, I will definitely buy a bunch of those things," that is also not a sale. So, sales is money, money talks, and You guessed it. All right. So, how does this work then? What is this research? What is research? Well, research will tell you information about public relations and about advertising and whether or not they turned into sales. Now, we talked about this thing called research. Research is when you find out a sale, and it's basically a prep sale. Okay. So, the point of purchase intercept, okay, which is our sales research assignment in the class or our marketing research assignment, was due with the final paper with the sales presentation. This is a final assignment. It's the final assignment before your presentation. So that makes it the penultimate assignment. First, it's a practice sales presentation. You can select any person. Any person. It could be a person in this class. It could be your parents. It could be a friend. It could be a roommate. It could be anybody. You can go to the pizza shop down the street and ask the person running the pizza shop, any person. And you're going to practice your sales presentation on them. Yes. Okay. And the question is, did you get any money or something of value for it? In other words, if you said, hey, you know what? Here's my sales presentation. You have leaves in your backyard. I'm going to come by and I'm going to rake them. How do you feel about that? If they hand you $10 and say, come back next week, that's a sale. If they say, I don't have $10 for you, but I'll tell you what, I will wash your car for you right now, a $10 value, and you shake hands on it, that's almost a sale. We'll call that a pre-sale. Okay. So and here's the question, select any person, do the sales presentation on them. Did you get a pre-sale? Actual dollar? Did you actually get dollars for your product or service? And if the answer is no, why not? The reason could be that your product sucks. Your service sucks. They don't want it. It's not relevant. You're trying to sell sand in the middle of the desert. Or it could be that they just like, dude, you're not really serious about this, right? I mean, okay, that was a great sales presentation. I would give you money if it was for real, but clearly you're doing this for class and you're not really serious about it. Whatever the reason is, you are going to go, and just like we did before with the videos, just like we did with your social venture pitches and all this stuff, you're going to go in there and you're going to upload a little video explaining and saying, okay, Brad, this is what happened. I went and did my sales presentation. They said they gave me $1. Or they didn't give me $1, they washed my car. Or they said no. And when I asked them, they said they didn't think I was serious. It was just for school. Or they just said, no, I don't use that kind of stuff. I don't have a phone. So what would I do with your app? That's the assignment. Okay. It's due with the paper. And preferably you do the same exact sales presentation that you'll be doing in the presentation. And what is that, Brad? Well, here's your sales presentation, and I'm going to give you an example of one right now, or as soon as I get done telling you what it has to be. First of all, it has to be between 1 and 5 minutes, and it says in the rubric, not more than 15 minutes, okay? Meaning, if it's amazing how all of a sudden, once you start talking about something, you can start bloviating. Bloviating meaning like you're talking and talking and talking, and all of a sudden, oh crap, we went 15 minutes, and I forgot to ask you for your money. So I'll start taking points off. The rubric is very clear. It's right attached to the assignment. And all I want you to do is sell me your product. Okay. What the problem is, who you are, who I am, right? What's your solution? Is there some kind of tech or mystery? And is it authentic, culturally authentic? And I'm going to explain what that means in 2 seconds. And then it has to have a call to action. Give me your money. And again, I'll give you an example. Where do I send the money? Where do we go? What do I do next? P.S. Remember to include a log line in the video and as a text description on the video when you upload it. Now, you say, what are you talking about, Brad? What is this we're talking about? Well, let me ask you this question. Here's a crazy question. We all are into this AI and these very amazing quantum computers, but I want you to tell me, Dalton, Alex, Allison, I want you to answer this question if you can. What computer have you ever heard of that has 86, what is that? Trillion? 86 billion neuron switches. That's 8.6. And then add to that, you've got 1 trillion connections. Okay. 1 trillion connections, switches. So what computer can you tell me has 86 sextillion switches in it? Sextillion, that's a word. Did you know that? It's 8.6 times 10 to the 21st switches. Alex, can you think of a computer that big?
I'm gonna swing for this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the brain.
Damn, you're good. You're good, Alex. You're good. You're exactly right. There are 86 billion neurons, 100 trillion connections, and 1,000 proteins at each connection. That's 86 sextillion switches in the human brain. You think I think that's a pretty big. I think it's a pretty big computer. I mean, I don't think we've made one quite that big yet. Even with the most fanciest schmanciest AI that there is. And you know what's funny about those computers? We think of the human brain as like the hard drive, right? The hard drive. But it runs software. And when it runs software, the software actually is called values, and the values are driven by what we think that means, culture. So there's a great company, a great research company called the Cultural Studies Center for Cultural Studies and Analysis that's in Philadelphia. They did this amazing study showing what they call what is American culture? What is it? And so the number one thing, first of all, the number one thing that all Americans believed, you're going to love this, is that Americans don't have a culture. Think about that as a paradox. So, the number one cultural belief that Americans have is that they don't have a common cultural belief. They have that all in common. And that brings us because the bottom line of that is that they truly believe that we believe that the base unit of American society is the individual. It's all about the individual. It's based on the individual. It's based on individual rights. The Bill of Rights is a list of items that the United States government is not allowed to do to you. It's not things they're supposed to do to you. It's actually stuff they're not allowed to do to you. So that's because individually, the base unit of American society is the individual. And you want proof of this? And this was a great proof. Have you ever heard of an HOV or an HOV lane on a highway? What happened was in the 70s and 80s when we had everybody's worried about gasoline and overusing gasoline and there's a big push on the governments actually put separate lanes on highways that were called lanes, and what they were for was high occupancy vehicles. So they were trying to encourage everybody to carpool so that people would save on using energy and save on using fossil fuels. Well, guess what? People didn't do it. They lied. They cheated. Cops were pulling people over because they'd had a mannequin in the front seat, or they had a big piece of cardboard, or they had a big monkey or something like that, or a dog. They put a hat on their dog rather than because the last thing that Americans want is to have to share a car ride with somebody. That's why, in Pennsylvania, every time you put gasoline in your car or electricity in your car, whatever it is, you're paying something like 70% goes into the taxes to pay for the rail lines for the subways, the bus routes. Why? Because they fail. They can't charge enough for those things because people would rather walk if they could than get on the bus or take a subway. Anyway, mobility equals freedom. That is the American way. That is it. Now here's the deal. So we said the base unit of American society is the individual. That's why all those things failed. Also, individuals should control their own destiny. Also, actions should always be judged in a moral light, meaning the future is better. Okay, the future will be better. That's wild. By the way, that's a picture of the Valley of Armageddon, in case you were curious. The actual place. I've been there. Okay, now what else? What else? Number four, authority or bigness should be viewed with suspicion, right? The big bad wolf. It's not the little cute fluffy wolf, it's the big bad wolf. Think about every industry that ever is vilified. Big tobacco, big auto, big insurance, big farm. Why are we calling it big? Shouldn't that be a compliment? Wow, you're successful. You're big. No, it's those evil big people. That's an American culture. It's American culture. That's what we believe. You big insert industry here is watching you with the all-seeing evil eye. Okay, what else? What else, Brad? Well, number five, we should always have as many choices as possible. 56 flavors. It's not good enough. You go into the stores, and it's like, we got to try new flavors, more options, more options, more options. Why? Because we're Americans, and that's what we truly believe. And also, number six, anything, and I mean anything, can and should be improved. Why not try the fifth wheel in the car? I've actually seen it done. Um, so because that's the American culture. And last, number seven, the number seven should of cultural beliefs that drive American choice. Number seven, the future should be better than the present. I know. Brad's going to jump into the credit cards again. It's true. Why are there so many credit cards? Why do people get credit cards? Because you believe the future is going to be better and you'll be able to pay it back. Okay, so that's a belief. This comes from the Center for Cultural Studies and Analysis in Philadelphia, and they have a really well-written paper on the hidden systems, hidden cultural stuff. So back to the umbrella, okay? What are we talking about here? Now we're talking about sales, and I promised you, so that's your research, okay? That's your research that drives sales. Here's your sales presentation. I promise I'd give you a sales presentation. Now, the thing is, most of us in America also believe that salespeople are these sleazy, unctuous, platitudinous people with the cigar and the gold chain that are just one step above the devil. Also, many of us in sales believe that every time trying to close a sale, it's all about fighting the universal fight here against Darth Vader. But really, it's not. Really, it's not. It's really simple formula. It's based on the simple concept. What is the problem you're going to fix? What is your solution? Okay. How are you going to do it? What's the underlying magic, if it matters? And then what's the call to action? What do I have to do? Now, sometimes we'll use other things like marketing and sales or some competition, things that we put into the product, who the team is, maybe what your projections are or milestones or what the status is. But these would only be mattering if, in fact, they solve the problem. The main thing is you want to make all sales personal. Okay. Sales presentation should be personal. It should be super simple. It should never be more than 5 minutes. Okay. We're a 200 level class. Okay. So if it goes a little over 5 minutes, I'm not going to start taking points off it. You get up to 15 minutes, I'm taking points off. It should be 1 or 2 minutes. In fact, the one I'm going to give for you right now should be about 2 minutes long. All right. Testimonials are great. Costs, great. If you can say, hey, we're going to cut your costs. Yes. Or here's other people that said this is great. Returns on investment. Okay. Also great. If these are important, if these are things you can do. Okay. So you ready? Here's an example of sales presentation. All right. You could start with something like a picture showing the problem. Okay. Who likes this? How many of us recognize this picture and love waiting 2 hours in line to take a 45-minute long flight? Or who loves this? Who loves watching the TSA beat up old people? Or even better, when they come and they decide to search your orifices, full cavity search, make it deep, right? No, we hate this, right? This is horrible. The thing of it is that I can teach anyone how to fly. Like anyone, I can teach anyone. None, it doesn't matter how old you are. My youngest student was like 10. I can teach anyone at any age how to fly. Here's the deal. We could be going this, the sky's the limit, right? We can go as far high as we want. We can go to the deepest, darkest, coldest regions of the world. You could go to the North Pole or you can go to the Caribbean. All from what I could teach you as an individual, My simple classroom, very affordably, we're talking about $200, maybe $300 a month, taking about 6 to 9 to 10 months, depending on how long it takes you to learn the different stuff. Very economically, you can be in your own private conveyance going across the world whenever you want, however you want, and most importantly, you can skip the rubber gloves of the TSA. Okay? Say goodbye to the cavity search. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Give me a call. Here's my phone number. Here's my website. Be prepared to come out for a discovery flight and bring a check for $199. And I will take you for your first flight and we will begin the process of independence. Okay, so what was that? A minute and a half, 2 minutes? I didn't count it. I should have counted it. I started with the problem. Okay, who hates this? I showed you a graphic of a problem. Every one of us, right? Dalton, Alex, and Allison, you saw those pictures and were like, oh crap, right? Perfect. So here's the problem. Okay. You know what it is. Here's my solution. It's totally doable. It's totally reasonable. It's easy. We could do it together. And here's the call to action. That is it. That is what I want from your sales presentations. You could add other stuff if you wanted to. You could add all that stuff if you thought it was going to help make the sale, but only if it's going to make the sale. The bottom line is, so bottom line, this is what we talked about, okay? My presentation was this simple. Flying now sucks, and you can't do it individually, okay? You can teach yourself basically how to fly. Anybody can learn how to fly anywhere, and then you'd be free to go wherever your imagination wants to take you. It's totally affordable. Our system is very inexpensive, but at the same time, very memorable. A couple $100s a month, maybe a very intimate classroom, one-on-one, obviously, with an experienced instructor in about a year. Okay? Say goodbye to the cavity search. Hello, freedom. Call me, set up an appointment. That's it. And that is how we do a sales presentation in this class. And that is what I'm asking for. Now, the pop quiz for this evening. The pop attendance quiz. Based on this video that we're watching right now, do you think that cats are trainable? I think that's a pretty good question. So go ahead and fill out the pop attendance quiz. Yes, they are, or no, they are not. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching this evening. See you next week.